snubs and guys that were not able to get in.
Ooh.
Patrick, we'll start with you on this because Casey Mize is a guy that, well, obviously going back to his days at Auburn, now pitching in the major leagues, I do feel like he, obviously being a number 1 overall pick, you're held to a different standard in a lot of ways. Paul Skeens is as well. Your thoughts on him this year and not seeing his name among the All-Stars?
Yeah, this is definitely one that I thought was going to be an All-Star. And there are a couple that I kind of scratched my head. I was like, man, really? You know, this guy's not an All-Star, but this other guy is.
Right.
And, you know, everyone can talk about, like you said, number 1 overall pick. It seemed like people kind of gave up on Casey Mize a little bit too early.
Yeah.
Had that big breakout year last year and really, you know, parlayed it into something really nice this year. But if I'm being honest, like, he is a sub-3 ERA. He's been quite good when he's been able to stay on the field. 72 strikeouts. Had an All-Star, or was named to the All-Star team for the first time last year. Had a pretty great year last year as well. But, you know, it's just unfortunate to see a guy that works as hard as he does is having one of those quietly good seasons. Like everyone wants to talk about Tarek Skubal and where he's going to go. But Casey Mize is probably also going to get traded. And he could be one of those guys that instantly finds success somewhere. If you're grading it on a scale of low impact to franchise level impact player, I'd say he's probably on the higher end impact player, as we're less than a month away from the trade deadline, which, goodness, I don't know where this season is going.
The season is flying.
But, you know, once the trade deadline hits, that's when the season really starts for baseball, and the season's going to start for football not too long after. But I would see him as a probable trade candidate.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Moving into, you can't wait to not talk about baseball anymore. But yeah, just unfortunate. I don't know about you, but it feels a little bit unfortunate to me that he's not been selected. And I mean, he still could. You know, you do have some dropouts and stuff like that.
Right.
But it feels like this was a guy that should have been selected right off the bat.
Yeah, and I know wins and losses are sort of an archaic stat at this point.
Yeah.
Doesn't have the best one, though. He's 4 and 5, but we've mentioned it before, the fact that a lot of times if you only are controlling one side of the scoreboard, it's hard to kind of blame him if he doesn't get the run support. But Patrick mentioned that 2.64 ERA, 72 strikeouts, a 0.98 WHIP. I do find it interesting, though, because this is a guy, like Patrick said, he didn't necessarily have the kind of fanfare that Paul Skeens did. And Skeens was a little on the field because he played at LSU, a little off the field because of his girlfriend. But Mize really didn't have that same kind of fanfare.
Right. And I do wonder, too, Patrick, you would probably know the answer to this, is part of the reasoning because he's dealt with a little bit of injury this year and he hasn't played as many innings?
I think it's just the fact that he plays in Detroit.
Yeah.
Like just being brutally honest. And he's overshadowed by Tarek Skubal, who came back from injury, pumped 99 right away, and nobody really, it was like, all right, you know, this is going to be a lingering injury. But, I mean, being a number 2 starter behind a guy that is widely known as one of the best in your league, it's kind of hard to get that attention. And, I mean, I'm trying to make, like, a good football comparison in a way. I'm like kind of having a hard time thinking of one. Maybe a basketball one when you've got LeBaron Philon as your number 1 guy.
Right.
And then you got a guy like Amari Allen that's just like also there. He's also pretty good, but doesn't get as much attention as Philon because he's the number 1 guy.
Yeah. I thought you were going to go with like Luka and Jalen Brunson, like when they were in Dallas.
That'd be a good one too.
It's almost like a what if that person had their own team.
Right.
And then we saw Luka take the Mavs to the finals.
Here's a good one.
Yeah.
Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison.
Yeah.
Like Addison quietly has good years. Jefferson always gets the attention because I think a lot of people think that he's the best wide receiver in the league. I don't know. I think I still have to give it to his old teammate Jamar Chase. But it's just something about being the number 2 guy on the team. It's like you're the little brother. Yeah. You don't get as much attention at times.
And especially when you have the kind of talent that could be a number 1 just about anywhere else. Patrick, let's stay on the diamond here.
Yes, let's stay on the diamond here. I don't know about you guys, but it feels like this season in general, and I could be coming at it from a different perspective because the Mets are terrible.
Okay.
So, this could be taken with potentially a grain of salt.
Yeah.
But for some reason, it just doesn't have that juice this year. And it could be that. It could be this overshadowing of a lockout that is impending and all but certain to happen next year. Or it could also be the fact that some of the game's biggest stars are struggling or hurt.
Right.
Aaron Judge, hurt. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is not going to play in the All-Star game. Tarek Skubal was hurt for a long time. Guys like Pete Alonso aren't really having great years. Edwin Diaz got hurt.
Right.
So maybe it's that, but I don't know about you guys. It just doesn't have that same juice as it did even last year.
No, I don't think so either. And I will attribute some of it to what you mentioned, the fact that, a lot of the star players are out, but this also to the NBA finals the NBA playoffs were just really, really good. And so that obviously put a mark on it.
Yeah.
And I also do think that anytime you're in a World Cup year, it might just,
that too.
Unless you just have crazy storylines, you don't necessarily get the same traction in baseball. Another thing, the last thing I'll think about this is the fact that the LA Dodgers almost feel like the baseball season is inevitable. Like, we almost know who the champion is going to be. It's like, okay, how are they going to get there? How's it going to be Dodgers and Yankees again? It just almost feels like when the Warriors were having their run, it's like, yeah, you want to watch greatness, but at the same time too, it's like, all right, is this all going to end up with the same two teams in come November that we saw last year or 2 years ago? I think that's kind of a part of it as well.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point because I feel like normally at this time of year, you feel like the only thing there is to keep up with is baseball.
Yeah.
But it hasn't felt that way this year because of the World Cup and because it felt like the entire country was watching the NBA finals, and I don't feel like that's usually typical.
Right.
So I just feel like the other sports have overshadowed baseball a lot this year.
Right, especially with the major markets now watching in the NBA, because you brought New York in the NBA, and it just, and like you said, with everything with the World Cup, I do think that there was other factors on top of the fact that the game's stars are hurt. Really hurts there.